Well, I've arrived, and to prove it, I'm here. Welcome to the 2017 Lancaster Insurance Classic Motor Show at the NEC. This is Overdrive. Now I'm here with Andrew Lake from the Sporting Bears. So Andrew, what is Sporting Bears for those who don't know? What is it all about?
Well, Sporting Bears is all about a group of classic car owners and sports car owners having fun with their cars, and we like to raise a little bit of money for charity along the way. And I don't know, about 25 years ago we came up with the concept of Dream Rides. Dream Rides is basically where we ask members of the public for a donation. In return, we will give them a ride in one of our classic cars. You can get a ride in one of those for a donation that goes to one of the 9 children's charities that we're raising money for here at the Classic Motor Show. And
over the years now then, just how much money have you raised? How much, for example, would you expect to raise now at a show like this then?
You've come at a good time, because on the 26th of August this year, we actually went through the £2 million barrier. So we have shows like this year at CMS. We would expect to raise somewhere in the region of £35,000 to £40,000. In the past we've been over £50,000 at the show when we've had some marquee cars, like last year we had a Pagani Huayra, and we ran some raffles and other bits. We go to places like Carfest, so the 2 Carfest shows this year we raised over £100,000 for children in need. And basically we go around to a number of shows around the country. We're particularly fond of going to shows that are all about raising money for children's charities. So there's the Children's Trust run an event called Supercar event that's been down at Dunsfold, shortly to move to Rockingham. That overall event raises about £100,000 a year, which we contribute £10,000 to £12,000 a year.
So as far as sort of classics as well, you've got a load of classics, and it's sharing that passion not only for modern supercars but also classics themselves, isn't it?
Well, exactly. I mean, a lot of the comments we get from people who will come in a car, say like the TR6 that we've had here for a couple of days, is either I used to own one of those, or I always wanted one of those when I was a boy, but I couldn't afford it. So, for instance, I might have a go in this Aston Martin behind me later on, simply because that's always been my particular dream car. I'd love to have a passenger ride in one. That really is, yes, sharing that passion, giving people a little bit of a thrill. I drive a load of sillies myself, and quite often people get in and go, "I'm thinking of buying one of these." That's what they say when they get in the car. Quite often when they get out the car, they go, "I am buying one of these."
So, okay then, to wrap this up now then, personally for yourself, what's been the biggest, has there been a moment that's been the biggest thrill, say taking a particular person out, or a moment that will actually almost had you in tears then?
It was a moment not actually on a fundraising dream ride. It was a moment at an event we did at the Rockingham circuit, where we took a lot of the families out, and we had this lad came along and had meningitis, had both arms, both legs amputated. We put him in one car, his 2 brothers in another car, and blatted them around the circuit. And the mother said to me, that's the first time in a long while they've gone out and they've done something all together, all on the same basis. And I was fighting to hold back the tears after that. And those are the moments that I really treasure. Those are the moments I do all of this for.
Andrew, thank you very much for sharing with that, and good luck with the rest of the show, and hopefully we'll catch you up again on Overdrive.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
Now, I've managed to catch up with Simon of Vauxhall Heritage. The main feature on the Vauxhall Heritage stand is kind of a homage to Big Bertha. That's Jerry Marshall's saloon cars from the 70s. So Simon, the reason for Big Bertha being the centre of the attention?
So much focus these days is placed on Baby Bertha, which is the car that came after this, and I think to a lot of people that's the one that is synonymous with Jerry Marshall. That's the Vauxhall racer that's synonymous with Jerry. But not enough is said about Big Bertha, which actually preceded Baby Bertha. Big Bertha only raced 6 times, but it used basically the same mechanicals as Baby Bertha. It was a Repco Holden V8, a GM V8, producing around about 500 horsepower. When it finished a race, it won a race. Basically, it entered 6, didn't finish 3, and was first in the other 3. The car ultimately crashed and it was destroyed and never came back again. So what we wanted to do was just pay tribute to Jerry and Blydenstein and this wonderful car. And so what we did, we couldn't think of what car we could use, and then we thought, well, why don't we use our large car, today's large car, which is the Insignia, and really dress it as Big Bertha.
And of course, as far as sort of racing is concerned, and as far as big quick saloons, you caused quite a stir when the Lotus Carlton came out. So what sort of response have you been having at the show with that understated car here?
Well, I think for a lot of people it's iconic, whether you like Vauxhalls or not. I think everyone recognises this car as being a very, very important car in its day. It was the world's fastest 4-door production saloon when it was launched, and it could achieve 176 miles an hour, 376 horsepower, straight 6, twin turboed, and it was a wonderful car. It was alright, it was phenomenally fast, but it was also really well engineered in terms of the suspension. A very, very different car to the standard car on which it was based. And now, of course, the talent of the car is reflected in the market price of and the values of the cars, which are increasing all the time.
And I guess from the sublime to the bread and butter, all right, not exactly a bread and butter, this is the V6. The Cavalier has its sort of, if you like, expanding love that seems to be seeping through. Danny Hopkins, for example, of Practical Classics,
yes,
has a love for the Cavalier. So what sort of response have you been having to this version?
A very good response. I think the Cavalier was an important nameplate. The Mark I, which was launched in 1975, was a real breath of fresh air, actually, for Vauxhall. It reignited interest in the brand. I mean, we had, frankly, the Victor was a lovely car, but it was looking quite tired at around the mid-70s. Cavalier came along, and all of a sudden you had an ultra-modern, groundbreaking car in many respects. And even today, we have a Mark I and a Mark II in our collection. You drive the Mark I, it still has a very, very modern feel to it.
And of course, we move on from the bread and butter Cavalier to the Calibra. So I guess where there are some cars like, dare I say it, the Capri, the Rover Tomcat, where has the response been as far as the support and the fan base for the Calibra been then?
I think the Calibra has always had it's had a unique fan base, based on the Cavalier, but very different, obviously. And it's that fan base still endures today. I mean, there are individual Calibra clubs that support it. It was quite a unique car for Vauxhall at the time. It was probably one of the most aerodynamic cars in its class, and I think actually in the UK. It was available in all-wheel drive and front-wheel drive, and it had this mixture of 2-litre engines and also the V6. This is the V6 engine, and like the Cavalier we were talking about earlier, that engine was built at Ellesmere Port as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, Simon, thank you very much, and congratulations again to Vauxhall for at least supporting their heritage and continuing to do so.
Thank you very much.
Now, the staple diet of your car enthusiast growing up in the 60s and 70s was one of these, the Observer's Book of Automobiles. It just so happens this is my Observer's Book of Automobiles from 1970, and on page 1 is an Abarth. This Abarth based on an 850 Sport. Now, I was asked to pick my car of the show. Now, given that this is a picture of a car that I've never seen, when it came to my car of the show, there could only be one, and it's this.
This is a takeover. We've managed to get rid of Ian Edwards, and I'm Ian Seabrook, now taking you through the world of crazy Citroens. I'm the man responsible for Hubnut videos on YouTube, where you can see reports on this event, and lots of Citroën-based adventures. We're here to specifically look at the 2CV GB stand. That's the Citroën 2CV Club of Great Britain. And we've got a selection of Dyanes here to mark 50 years of the Citroën Dyane. So let's take a closer look at what makes these cars so special. So we're now over with the earliest Dyane we've got assembled here. This is a 1967, so it is 50 years old, and it has the earliest engine fitted to the Dyane. It's the 425cc engine. It produces all of about 18 brake horsepower. So if you think a later 2CV is slow, you ain't seen nothing yet. And as production developed, they fitted the 435cc engine, as in this beautiful brown example here, and then it went all the way to 602, which is the other cars we have assembled here, which had as much as 33 brake horsepower. So there you go, that is getting on a bit. Don't use it all at once. So here we are at the 2CV GB stand. This is the best club for Citroëns in the country.
Right, now then, I was looking for a Citroën expert. Sadly, James Walsh of Practical Classics was not available. So, Ian Seabrook, whom I've managed to get my job back, thank you Kevin, is here to talk to us about the 50th year of the Citroën Dyane, assuming he hasn't covered it already. Right, Ian, Now then, Citroën Dyane, is that how it pronounced?
Oh, well, that's an interesting starting point, because the UK version is to call it the Dyane, but a French person would call it a Dyane, which is probably a bit closer to what is correct.
And with regard to stacking up of against the Citroën 2CV, where does Dyane stack up with the 2CV?
Well, it was originally conceived as a replacement, an evolution of the 2CV, but people still wanted to buy the 2CV. As good as a Dyane is, and it is better than a 2CV in many ways, it isn't a 2CV. It just hasn't got the same snail-like charm.
So what's the main essence and difference between the two cars then?
Most of it is what you can see. So under the skin, it's all very similar. Same platform chassis, same interlinked suspension, massive amounts of travel, same engines. The difference is the body. They repackaged it. It was actually engineers from Panhard, recently acquired by Citroën. Repackaged the body, made it more aerodynamic, made it so the doors don't flap on the motorway anymore. Really, they just made it a better car.
Mm-hmm. So 3 questions to finish now. How many of them are still out there?
It's got to be hundreds. There can't be more than a couple of hundred, I don't think, left in the UK.
Okay. And what about as far as parts are concerned?
We're very lucky in terms of mechanical parts. There's an awful lot available. A 2CV is very much like a Mini. You can get absolutely every part. The Dyane isn't quite so lucky, but this is where the club comes in. We've got a spare parts organisation known as SPOG, which has remade all the rear panel work of the Dyane, the inner wings, boot floor, the rear light panel, and lots of other little bits around the car, like the windscreen panel, all been made by the club, because it's the only way we can keep these cars going.
And the final question then, just how important is the club or any classic car club to any classic car owner?
Well, clubs are still very much the heart of the business. You look at the displays here, the efforts people go to promote their cars to the public here and to other enthusiasts, and the work they do to keep these cars going. I take my hat off to them.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Ian. And of course, you've got a little bit of AC now that's yours, so you'll be developing and putting that invalid carriage on the road.
That's certainly the hope. It's a long road to go, but we're looking very much forward. So my latest video is the Invacar collection, or rather discovery. Collection still needs to happen to get my 2 Invacars to Wales, and see if we can get them back on the road. Should be one heck of a mission.
Okay, so I gather that's going to be a Hubnut Overdrive production then?
We'll have to see what we can do. Maybe we can do more collaborations. It will certainly be fun.
So I'm with James from Porsche. Now Porsche is very supportive of its heritage, and as we saw with Vauxhall earlier, is that a lot of manufacturers like to support their heritage, but not only has Porsche got heritage, but it's sporting heritage. And to support that, you've started an initiative called Resto Racing. So James, can you tell us a bit about Resto Racing?
Absolutely. So the Porsche Classic side of our business has been growing over the last few years. And what we've also introduced is something called the Restoration Competition, and we've run that for 3 seasons. And the theory behind that was about centres going out, finding a Porsche that's in pretty bad nick and giving it a full nuts and bolts restoration and bring it back up to kind of concours condition. We then got all the cars together and we judged them and kind of announced the winner. So we've done that 3 times and thought, right, okay, let's have a look at what we're going to do next. So it was the anniversary for the Boxster, and we thought this is a car that's slightly different. It's very much the more modern end of the spectrum, so people have a very different view of it. We thought, right, let's introduce a new element. So for us, we thought, let's not just take the car and restore it and get them back into kind of great condition. Let's get them prepped to race condition, put a cage in there, etc., and then get all these centres racing against each other on the track and actually kind of, get that motorsports feeling back. And at Porsche, that's a huge part of our brand. It's very much what you learn on the track comes to the road cars. So Classic should be a little bit of everything. It should be our heritage on the road, but also let's do a nod to our heritage and our racing kind of background.
So basically you're doing 2 things there. You're introducing pride and competition within the different teams, and also from the Boxster point of view, you're giving it its own bit of heritage as well.
Yep, absolutely. I think the Boxster is one of those cars that sometimes isn't always seen as it should be. I mean, it's a fantastic car, mid-engine layout, brilliant car to drive, and actually we want to kind of get this car back on the map. It falls under the Porsche Classic banner, and we're very much about keeping these cars on the road. So 70% of all Porsches ever made are still on the road, and it's our job to make sure it stays that way. So for us it's about showing off that any centre in the UK can handle classic cars. We also have what we call our 4 classic partner centres, and all of these guys are going to be kind of showing their skill in keeping these cars on the road, getting them prepped, and then also a bit of excitement on the track.
And with regard to development of this whole thing now, what are the plans for the future with it?
So the centres are restoring cars now. They kind of got hold of it. I think we have 15 cars so far. We're hoping for about a grid of 16 cars in total. They're going to have to decide on a historic Porsche racing livery, which they're going to copy and feature on each Boxster. So that could be something like the Pink Pig or the Salzburg livery that featured on a 917K, and do their own kind of interpretation of that on the car, which again is a bit of a kind of nod back to our history. And then in 2018, they're going to compete in a 3-round series where they'll be head-to-head on the track.
Excellent, and it'll be literally the best team that wins.
Absolutely. So we'll judge them both on the mechanical restoration, the kind of paintwork finish in their livery, but then also, how they finish on the track, and that'll be, a real leveler. So we're going to see, our aim was for centre staff to kind of drive these cars, whether it's, the centre principal or a technician or a service advisor. Whoever's kind of wants to be there is the guy in the driving seat, and they'll all be pitted against each other at kind of a nice grassroots motorsport kind of competition.
Excellent. Well, James, it's nice to see Porsche doing that, and we'll look forward to seeing those results.
You, me too. See you in 2018.
Okay. So there you have it, the 2017 Lancaster Insurance Classic Motor Show. Another cracking show here at the NEC. So all I can say is we'll see you next year, and until then, continue enjoying your classics. Good night.